After Asa died, his son, Jehoshaphat, became the next king. He strengthened Judah to stand against any attack from the northern kingdom of Israel. He stationed troops in all the fortified towns of Judah, and he assigned additional garrisons to the land of Judah and to the towns of Ephraim that his father, Asa, had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat, because he followed the example of his father's early years, and did not worship the images of Baal. He removed the pagan shrines and Asherah poles from Judah. He sought his father's God and obeyed his commands, instead of following the evil practices of the northern kingdom of Israel. He was deeply committed to the ways of the Lord. In the 3rd year of his reign, Jehoshaphat sent his officials, priests, and Levites to teach in all the towns of Judah. They took copies of the book of the law of the Lord and traveled around through all the towns of Judah, teaching the people. So the Lord established Jehoshaphat's control over the southern kingdom of Judah. All the people of Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat, so he became very wealthy and highly esteemed. Then the fear of the Lord fell over all the surrounding kingdoms, so that none of them wanted to declare war on Jehoshaphat. The Philistines brought him gifts and silver as tribute, and the Arabs brought 7,700 rams and 7,700 male goats. So King Jehoshaphat had great wealth and honor. Jehoshaphat became more and more powerful, and he built fortresses and storage cities throughout Judah. He stored numerous supplies in Judah's towns, and stationed an army of seasoned troops at Jerusalem. But Jehoshaphat made a foolish alliance with King Ahab and Queen Jezebel of the northern kingdom, who worshipped false gods. It was an alliance of marriage between King Ahab's daughter Athaliah and Jehoshaphat's son Jehoram. A few years later, Jehoshaphat went to Samaria to visit Ahab, who prepared a great banquet for him and his officials. They butchered great numbers of sheep, goats, and cattle for the feast. At the feast, King Ahab said to the officials of Judah,
"Do you realize that the town of Ramoth-gilead belongs to us?"
Then he turned to Jehoshaphat and asked,
"Will you join forces with me to recapture Ramoth-gilead?"
Ramoth-gilead was a city in the nation of Aram, located on a mountain spur east of the Jordan River Valley. It had been designated as a city of refuge. Jehoshaphat replied,
"Why, of course. You and I are as one, and my troops are your troops. We will certainly join you in battle. But first let's find out what the Lord says."
So the king of Israel summoned the prophets, 400 of them, and asked them,
"Should we go to war against Ramoth-gilead? Or should I hold back?"
They all replied,
"Yes, go right ahead. God will give the king victory."
One of them, Zedekiah, made iron horns and proclaimed,
"This is what the Lord says. With these horns, you will gore the Arameans to death."
But Jehoshaphat asked,
"Is there not also a prophet of the Lord here? We should ask him the same question."
Ahab replied,
"There is one more man who could consult the Lord for us.
But I hate him. He never prophesies anything but trouble for me.
His name is Micaiah, son of Imlah."
King Ahab then summoned one of his officials to bring Micaiah. The messenger went to Micaiah and said,
Look! All the prophets are promising victory for the king. Be sure that you agree with them and promise success.
But Micaiah replied,
As surely as the Lord lives, I will say only what my God says.
When Micaiah arrived before the kings, he said sarcastically to Ahab,
Yes, go up and be victorious.
For you will have victory over them.
But Ahab replied sharply,
How many times must I demand that you speak only the truth to me? When you speak for the Lord.
Then Micaiah told him,
In a vision, I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains, like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, Their master has been killed. Send them home in peace.
Micaiah continued,
I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, with all the armies of heaven around him. And he asked, Who can entice Ahab into attacking Ramoth-gilead so he can be killed?
Finally, a spirit offered to entice the king, by deceiving all his prophets to speak lies. The Lord has decreed disaster for you, King Ahab.
Then Zedekiah son of Kenana walked up to Micaiah and slapped him across the face.
Since when did the Spirit of the Lord leave me to speak to you?
He demanded. Ahab ordered,
Put this man in prison, and feed him nothing but bread and water until I return safely from the battle.
But Micaiah replied,
If you return safely,
Then it will mean that the Lord has not spoken through me.
Foolishly, Jehoshaphat ignored God's warning through Micaiah. He joined forces with King Ahab and set off to attack Ramoth-gilead. He even went along with Ahab's plan that he would go to war in royal robes. But Ahab would disguise himself. Meanwhile, the king of Aram had issued these orders to his 32 chariot commanders.
Attack only the king of Israel. Don't bother with anyone else.
So when the Aramean chariot commanders saw Jehoshaphat in his royal robes, they went after him, thinking that he was Ahab. But Jehoshaphat called out, and the Lord saved him. As soon as the chariot commanders realized that he was not the king of Israel, they stopped chasing him. An Aramean soldier randomly shot an arrow at the Israelite troops and hit the king of Israel between the joints of his armor. The battle raged all that day, and the king remained propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans. The blood from his wound ran down to the floor of his chariot, and as evening arrived he died. His body was taken to Samaria and buried there. Then his chariot was washed beside the pool of Samaria, and dogs came and licked his blood, just as the prophet Elijah had prophesied when Ahab had earlier murdered Naboth and stole his vineyard. When King Jehoshaphat of Judah arrived safely home in Jerusalem, Jehu, son of Hanani the seer, went out to meet him.
Why should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord?
He asked the king.
Because of what you have done. The Lord is very angry with you. Even so, there is some good in you. For you have removed the Asherah poles throughout the land, and you have committed yourself to seeking God.
Jehoshaphat lived in Jerusalem, but he went out among the people, traveling from Beer-sheba in the south to the hill country of Ephraim, encouraging the people to return to the Lord. He appointed judges throughout the nation in all the fortified towns. And he said to them,
Always think carefully before pronouncing judgment. Remember that you do not judge to please people, but to please the Lord. Fear the Lord. And judge with integrity. For the Lord our God does not tolerate perverted justice, partiality, or the taking of bribes.